Right, it's introducing my next special guest on my show now. I'm joined by Bud from Freeze Time. Welcome to my podcast and radio show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bud, is that short for anything in particular?
Well, it's a short story. My father, I was named after my father. My given name was Rosario, but when he was a kid, he was a paper boy. And although it's been lost in translation over the years, the original meaning of Bud or Buddy was a messenger. So from the time he was a kid, he was called Buddy. And then when I was born and named after him, I was also called Bud. So it's not really short for anything, but most people call me Bud. In fact, I'd say almost everybody except for passport control.
Well, welcome, Bud. Nice to have you on. You're also part of a collective band, is a family band, if I stand rightly, called Freeze Time. How did you come up with the
Correct.
name, Freeze Time?
Life is a series of moments, and when you look at any particular part of your life, you kind of freeze it in your head. And when we put those silhouettes together, it becomes the movie, and that we call life. And that's why we decided to call it Freeze Time.
And who's in your collective?
Well, I have four sons, and two of them play music. So my oldest son is Elliot, and he plays bass and keyboards and does some writing as well. Then my third son's name is Keith, and he plays literally everything. In fact, he just put out two albums on his own. So yeah, Keith plays primarily drums with us, but also lead guitar and bass. He lives in London.
Brill. And Bud, where are you based or based at present?
Well, I am in just outside of Philadelphia, as is Elliot. But as I said, Keith lives in London.
Right. Who's been your musicians that you look up to? When I think of Philadelphia, I think of Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce Springsteen, yeah, really got his start in Philly. Another band, Gamble and Huff, came out of here more on the R&B side. I guess the other real big act that came out of here was Hall and Oates. The Hooters, which you may or may not be familiar with, and We Danced, If God Was One of Us. Eric Bazillion actually lives right down the street from me. So those are the bands that came out of here that I look up to and talk to.
Very nice. I can see on this Zoom call that you're heavily into music with CDs as well. Very good.
Hmm.
With Philly as well, was that part of a kind of Motown scene from Philadelphia? Was there a good, like the OJs? Did you have a good scene with that type of music as well?
Absolutely. That's why I mentioned Gamble and Huff are famous writers, and they were a big part of the Philly scene. And in fact, going way back 50s and 60s, there were a lot of smaller independent labels that came out of Philly, which had a lot of R&B. And speaking of Motown, ironically, I just came back from there last week, the real Motown in Detroit.
Oh, fantastic. Onto your new records now. You have a new single out. Please let me know what it's called and what it's about.
You'll find yourself knocking is about, as a lot of songs are, uh, guy meets girl, fall in love, girl falls out of love. She's going to leave the guy, and the guy said, nah, because what you're going to find out eventually is that life was really better with me, and soon enough, you'll be knocking on my door. So certainly that metaphor of knocking has been used in a number of songs over a number of years, and this is kind of my twist on it.
It's it's amazing how things go full circle in life, isn't it?
Exactly. Exactly right. And when you listen to the track, you'll find a number of varied influences on it.
And working on your album or last album, you had the privilege of working in St. John's Wood, which is basically Abbey Road.
Yes, we did, and that was quite the experiences. They couldn't have been nicer and more professional. I mean, when you think about Abbey Road, Pink Floyd, Elton John, John Williams, and of course the Beatles, and we recorded in studio too, which was the Beatles studio. We did a 10-hour session. We did the entire album in 10 hours. And when you think about it, as I mentioned, One of my sons lives in London. One of my sons lives here. We were so totally rehearsed that we were able to do it in 8 songs in 10 hours. Pretty terrific.
And from that album was a song called I Don't Know What I Don't Know. Would you say that's quite autonymical, which means so you got I don't know, and then it's reverse what I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things you'd find with freeze time, we started the conversation by talking about You'll Find Yourself Knocking, which is really a pop song. Whereas I Don't Know What I Don't Know looks at a number of instances in life that you're pretty sure that when somebody's born, you're going to be joyful. When somebody dies, you're going to be down. Uh, it's better to light a candle in the darkness. You know that the guilty should confess,
Hmm.
but there are some things that you just don't understand, which is why is all of this hatred in the world? Why are we constantly being unkind to each other? And that's the part that I don't know. What I don't know is the answer to the big question of why are we cruel to each other sometimes?
Hmm. Well explained, well explained. I think we've all been in positions where we feel that people have been not so nice to us in life, so people can relate to this song.
Exactly. And this song is markedly different from Knocking in that it's a much slower, it's a ballad. Interestingly enough, just to give you a little bit of the background, when we recorded this track at Abbey Road, the lead guitarist, which was a grade school friend of mine, flew in from California, and there is a guy playing sax on it, Vic Watson. Well, my friend's name from California is Patricia Mannion. She's a blues player. Vic Watson, who plays sax on it, was originally the lead guitarist when I was in a punk rock band in the UK in Hounslow called Scissor Fits in the late 70s. I'm still friends with all the guys, and Vic Watson has now picked up sax, so he plays sax on the track.
That is awesome. And on this new record, going back to the present time,
Yes.
will this lead to another forthcoming album in the works?
Yes, as a matter of fact, a little plug. The album is called Here and There, and there's a little twist on the word. Here is an HEAR, and we always try to make it a little bit funny. It's out. It's on all the digital platforms and a wide variety of styles, including the very last track, which is a bonus track, which is a song I wrote, but it was performed by one of my university professors in a rootsy blues fashion, and he sings it in French. So it's really kind of cool album.
Cool. And like I liking the artwork on it as well. Did you have to put a lot of effort into designing, the sleeve and the credits and everything, which goes into the design of the album?
Well, thank you. And now I'll give a plug for another one of my sons because this picture was actually taken by my son Michael on his honeymoon in New Zealand of the Milky Way. Really cool. Really cool. And then the back, I have to give credit to my wife, where we have a picture of us in the control room and studio too. But what she suggested was, why don't you take a picture of that picture through a stained glass window, which is how you get this really weird effect.
Mm,
So yeah, really happy with it.
yeah. And do you feel CDs are making a comeback? Is that like,
No.
oh, don't you?
The quick answer is no. Vinyl is making the comeback, but the interesting part of vinyl, and you probably know this, at least in the US, is that over half of the people who buy vinyl don't have record players. It's really, really weird.
Mm. I must say with vinyl, because I appreciate people have put material out on vinyl because the costs of the production. So they have to make the profit on top of the vinyl. But it is so dear now, and but it's good that people are making the effort to buy the vinyl.
Exactly. And vinyl gives you that chance to really work on the artwork, and people treasure it as art, as well as the music, which a lot of people find warmer than CD.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just I know people who buy the vinyl, they don't play, they just put it in a frame, don't they? And in their living room, it's glorified, for
Hmm.
the eye. Um, so yeah, that's great. what are your opinions on like Spotify? That's been in the news of late, where a guy has called artists like content creators. Um, when at the end of the day, you're artists, musicians.
Well, content creators is really just a generic term, but the scary part, not only about Spotify, but music in general, is that you can put prompts into AI, artificial intelligence, and actually, in quotes, create songs that way. I think the big challenge with Spotify versus radio is that artists believe that the payout for Spotify is less, and it really is. You have to build incredibly big numbers to make any sort of money. So when people substitute Spotify for terrestrial or even satellite radio, it's very difficult to make a living. And I think recently, what really upsets me, especially for newer artists, is that Spotify doesn't pay any artist unless they have at least 1,000 streams per song. Now, I don't know if you go on Spotify regularly, but if you do, most new artists never get up to 1,000.
Mm,
And even though the pay is meager, you'd like to get something for your efforts. So, I mean, that's true with any platform, whether it's Spotify. The only way you really make music is by, if you're Taylor Swift and you're getting millions upon millions of streams, you might make some money. Or if you have a really passionate music lover who actually buys it. But other than that, it's really difficult to make money, which, as you know, the way most artists today make money is either by touring and or selling merchandise. It's
mm,
it's not from the music per se.
mm. That's that's for sure. Um, and I suppose second nature to that, you got to enjoy yourself as well. The love of doing music. Obviously, you got to cover your costs as well, but that helps doing it for the enjoyment and the love of it.
I'm not sure you cover your costs as an indie artist. I mean, I get joy out of it because I'm playing with my kids. I don't know if you have any, but if you can do something and bond over music, I mean, most dads either bond over music or bond over sport. And two of my kids are really into sport, and two of my kids are really into music. Actually, they're all into music, but two of them play and two of them don't. And that's the greatest feeling in the
Mm,
world. So the money part of it is really off to the side. It's you're not going to make money doing music unless you're playing
mm.
a lot of gigs.
Well, it seems really nice, interesting speaking with you, Bud. And we'll try and get one of the, well, no, not try. I will get one of your records played now on my show. All right.
That would be fabulous.
Nice speaking with you and your your opinions on music at the moment. It's always good to chat away with people with
Anytime.
their experiences. Right. Have a great day, Bud.
Okay, thanks a lot, Dan. Appreciate it.
No
Good
worries.
luck.